Welcome to Bet the Edge. It's Monday, May 31st, Memorial Day. Thank you to those of you watching on our brand new NBC Sports Edge YouTube channel. Rennae Stubbs, 6-time doubles Grand Slam winner. She's joining us to talk on the French Open favorites, plus value long shots at Roland Garros. And Von Dalzell, there's 2 NBA playoff games, which you know that means the guy's going to have plenty of props for you during the show. And don't forget, Edge of the Day, all that and more coming up right here on Bet the Edge, powered by PointsBet.
Look, there's really no other way for me to say it. You're missing out. If you're not playing this, you're missing out. It's the free contests on the NBC Sports Predictor app. They've already handed out over $3 million in cash prizes, and there are tens of thousands more up for grabs this and every week. So get in on the action right now with the NBC Sports Predictor app powered by PointsBet.
Sarah and I appreciate you listening to Bet the Edge. Please rate the pod if you are enjoying our content. And if you're not a daily subscriber, sign up. We will give you actionable information in a nice, tight 25-minute package every weekday, even on Memorial Day. Please sign up and rate the pod.
You probably know by now, but we're very active on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. You can follow us and let us know what you think we should talk about, or if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the podcast, we're happy to discuss with you there, and then bring on some different lines and future markets even on the show. You can find me. I'm at Sarah Perlman, and Drew is at Whale_Capper. And Drew's all smiles, I think, for a few reasons. One, he had a heck of a week betting-wise, and now we get to talk French Open, and this is right up this guy's alley, so I could tell he's fired up. We will get to that in just a few minutes, but we always start the show with some live movements, some plays that we're kind of keeping our eye on throughout the day. So Drew, happy Drew on this lovely Monday. Take it away.
Yeah, the playoffs, round one of the playoffs, NBA playoffs, have been incredibly fun so far. We knew the Western Conference was wide open, and lo and behold, we now have 3 series tied 2-2. It is going to be incredible to see who comes out of this. I don't really have strong feelings about any team at this point in the West, which is wild, save for the Jazz. But the Jazz, yeah. And then on the flip side, the Eastern Conference looks like we're going to see, short order here for, all of the favorites to advance, which again is somewhat surprising. But we're looking at the closeout game here for the Philadelphia 76ers against the Washington Wizards. The market is very, very, very high on Philadelphia. In fact, as we speak, it's getting bet out to -9. This is a massive swing from what we saw the opening number for the first game, game 3 between Philly and Washington. Philly was 5.5-point favorites there. So from 5.5 out to 9 in a closeout game is surprising. I do see Russ Westbrook is questionable. Ish Smith questionable. That may be some of the reason that people are willing to kind of lay this many points with the 76ers. 76ers still have a couple of issues that I haven't seen them work out in this series. The second unit struggles offensively at times, but clearly they are a hugely positive matchup when it's, their starting 5 and their closing 5 against a Wizards team that's just a little bit undermanned, especially from the big man position. So not shocking to see this get out to 9. I would not lay these points. I think the Wizards still fight hard. In fact, Wizards, this was kind of the exact spot that I backed the Wizards a ton this season. Everyone had given up on them. They're getting a ton of points. I
can vouch for you on that. You were loyal to backing the Wizards.
Yeah, maybe I go back to the well with them one last time, because this is probably the last time we'll get to bet them.
So if you have any play on this game, what you're saying, let's say it gets to +9, and we're certainly going to see that the way it's coming, and you will take the Washington Wizards and the points.
Yeah, I think they keep it competitive, and not unlike what we saw Miami. At least they fought for a half in Game 4 against the Milwaukee Bucks. I think the Wizards will give us an honest effort, and Bradley Beal can, he's a tryhard. So they're not going to roll over and quit just because this is a closeout game. So I think we go back to the well with the Wizards one last time. I'm just going to wait until closer to tip to get the best possible price.
Right. I will say this is, of course, straight up way different than against the number. I side with you on the side. Embiid, Simmons, Curry, Green, Harris. When the Sixers starting 5 have been on the court, 30-5 straight up. this season. It's been pretty remarkable, but of course, straight up and 9 points, big difference. I'm going to take us to another game fairly quickly here. The Utah Jazz and the Grizzlies. I'm looking at the total, Drew, and I asked you before I came on the show, so I feel a lot better about my play here. I like the over 225. I think this is the market really just not catching up with how these two teams have played for this series. The over is now hit in 3 straight games. I think we're going to see that tonight. The Grizzlies have been very inexperienced defensively on this side. I do think they're going to compete with the Jazz today, but I like the total. I think when you look at the 270 points in game 2, if game 3 went over, I think then we would have saw an adjustment defensively on both teams. We did not see that. Game 3 went over yet again. I think the market has not caught up with how these two teams are playing. I like the total to go over 225, and a lot of people have agreed with me there because it's opened at 223.5, and a ton of money came in to take the over here, Drew.
Yep, we agree on this one. I like the over as well. This was my edge of the day in game 2, and I think they scored 270 points or something.
They sure did.
You know, it's wild. They probably should have just started this series lining these in the 230s. They didn't. They've all gone over. Really, game 1, you had wild minus EV shooting from the less than expected shooting from the Jazz. They're starting to come back to the average shooting, but even in that regard, this should probably be a 230 point total. So let's play the over.
So we'll take the over 225, and assuming that'll go up throughout the day. Okay, Drew's going to keep smiling because we're going to be joined right now by Rennae Stubbs, 6-time doubles Grand Slam champion, to talk French Open. And Rennae, thanks so much for taking the time. I see right now you're watching the French Open behind you a little bit. Before we get into individual matches, I think most importantly is just going to be your main takeaway. What stood out to you so far as the French Open has begun underway here?
Well, I mean, obviously we've had a few upsets on the men's side. That was kind of crazy. We've got the top 3 greatest players of all time in the same section of the draw up the top. Roger is looking absolutely amazing right now. I doubt very much he's going to make a final, but I think he's using this as a warm-up really to get him match fit for Wimbledon. That's where his main focus is, but it's great to see him back on the court. Bottom line is that Medvedev getting through today comfortably, that was a bit of a surprise for me. I thought Bublik would give him a little bit more of a hard time, but also Bublik, you kind of never know what you're going to get with that guy. But the bottom line is, Rafa, he's later on today. He's up against a young Australian who kind of gave him a bit of smack talk after the last match. So I'm looking forward to that match in general. But overall, team losing, Zverev struggling. So the young guns, kind of which one? I know you love Tsitsipas, and so do I. So I think he's the guy that's going to get through to the finals on that side of the draw.
Yeah, he's having a great season, great clay swing so far, and boy, oh boy, did the draw work out well for him. I mean, this was about as good as you could have hoped, really, if you were a Tsitsipas backer. You mentioned all the the big guns are on the top half of the draw. I've made a pretty strong point that I think Nadal is a little bit overpriced by the market. We saw him not necessarily look his best in the run up here. Obviously lost in Monte Carlo to Rublev, which was a surprise. Rublev, by the way, in his quarter. He loses. He lost a set to Tsitsipas on his home turf in Barcelona. He lost a set to Djokovic in the Rome final. Zverev beat him in Madrid, although he's never been especially strong there anyway, so I can kind of forgive that one. But either way, this is
the altitude does not
the
help
altitude, right? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So I'm willing to forgive some of the poor form we've seen from him in this clay swing. But he was minus 120 to win the title before we saw the draw, and then they put him up against Sinner, Rublev, Djokovic, and then he's going to have Tsitsipas probably in the final. Just those 4 matches alone, I think if you moneyline parlayed or roll over, on that run, I think you're going to do better than minus 120. So I'm not sure why the odds didn't adjust once we saw how tough this path is. As you look at the men's draw, particularly this top half, do you agree that this is going to be kind of the toughest test we've seen in a while?
Well, there's no question it'll be the toughest. One of the reasons is he's getting older. Okay, so we have to take that into consideration. But having said that, he is 100 wins and 2 losses at the French Open. So that means he doesn't lose at the French Open ever, pretty much. The difference with all of those tournaments and the things that you mentioned was that they're best of 3 sets. So there's so much more pressure on the top players to sort of get the job done, right? And the young players or the lesser player, the one that's not supposed to win, can kind of come out and have a bit of a fiery day and play well and win 1 set. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I'm 1 set away. I can do this. I can do this. And these are great players. We're talking about Sinner and Rublev and Tsitsipas and all the players that have beaten Rafa over the coming years, over the past years on clay. But when you win 1 set at the French Open, you go, oh my God, I got to do this 2 more times. So over 5 sets on the Terre Battue in Paris, it's a whole different animal. It's something that you can't describe, and it's something that you don't understand until you're out there. And his physicality on the courts there are so much better than anywhere else. And the court is really big. So it allows him to play so much deeper in the court. You know, certain courts, like in Rome, it's a short backstop, Monte Carlo. So in Paris, the court is so big that it feels so big for these guys, not only to beat him in a point, but to beat him over 5 sets. I mean, he made Djokovic look like a junior in the finals last year, and Djokovic made him look like a junior in the Australian Open final. So the surface matters, the court matters, and there's no one that feels more comfortable at getting out of a hole, if he's ever in a hole, than Rafa at the French Open. So he's still my favorite, overwhelming favorite. But don't sleep on Djokovic, because this guy was the favorite. Everyone picked him to win the French Open. Not me. I didn't pick him. Until Rafa's not breathing or doesn't have a racket in his hand, he will be the favorite at the French Open. But having said that, just because everyone's sleeping on Djokovic, I think it helps him to have a little less attention. So I think he's in a section of the draw that he feels comfortable with getting through. He still has some tough players in his draw. I think about Berrettini. I think about players like, obviously Roger, but I don't think Roger will get there, but let's hope he does. But having said that, I think Novak's kind of going to be flying under the radar until the semis, and then we'll see if he can come up with a new game plan against Rafa.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Novak is underpriced as well. I think his quarter was favorable, just in terms of his style of game in particular. I think he can come through that first quarter unscathed. And if Rafa has, let's say, a tough 4 or 5 setter against the likes of Sinner and Rublev, those young legs, he might be in a tighter spot in that semifinals.
Although Sinner won in 5 sets today, so those young legs became a couple of years older after that.
Yeah, very fair.
Well, it makes sense. Just that Novak's plus 370, still juicy odds if you would like to fade Nadal. But Renee, I'll stick with you here and lay the minus 121. Okay, let's move on to the women's side here, because later today, this afternoon, on the East Coast, of course, Serena Williams will be facing Irina Begu. And when I look at Serena, what else can we say? 23 Grand Slams, 3-time French Open champion. When these two did play each other back in 2016, Serena won 6-4 and 6-1. But you could certainly make an argument for the younger, maybe more upcoming player in this scenario. It's hard to fade Serena, but she's minus 325 on the money line today. Renee, who kind of stands out? Could this be an upset in the French Open today?
If it is an upset, I will be one person that won't be so shocked. Just because Begu is kind of like a box of chocolates. You never really know what you're going to get. Now, any Romanians that listen to this podcast, don't take offense here, but you guys are a little crazy sometimes, right? You're either unbelievable, she's super emotional, but we love that about them, right? I mean, Halep, look at her, like a set and 2 love, and throws a racket and loses the French Open final to Ostapenko a couple of years ago, just because of the vulnerability and the emotions that she has sometimes. Begu's that type of player. She has a huge serve. She has world-class backhand. Forehand is a little dodgy. So we'll see how Serena plays the game plan style. But look, Serena's going to be under an enormous amount of pressure. We know every time she walks onto the tennis court, she is under the most pressure of anybody that's ever played the game in the women's side. And particularly with the record that is at stake. And she has had a woeful lead into the French Open. So this is not an easy matchup. Begu serves big. So if she's holding serve, she's going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on Serena. I still think Serena will squeak it out, but I wouldn't be surprised if at least it goes 3 sets. Now, that may not happen. Serena may come out and just play the match of her life, and Begu might be super nervous and not perform. It all depends on the day. But if there's ever a time that at least maybe take a bit of a side bet on a set win for Begu, I probably wouldn't be shying away from something like that. If Serena can get through this will be a huge amount of pressure off her shoulders. The first rounds are never easy for anybody. And Serena always sometimes comes out a little bit sketchy in the first rounds of Grand Slams of late. So I don't know if an upset is on the cards, but might be worth a bit of a small bet. Certainly a set, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. The run-up has not been great for her. You're right. The pressure
No.
is going to be high. First ever night match at Roland Garros.
Yes,
Serena will be under the lights.
The conditions will be a little bit more difficult for Serena because it'll be heavier. It'll be a lot colder. The faster conditions help Serena because it helps her serve. It helps her big style of flat sort of game. So the heavier conditions sort of don't really suit her. So we'll see. And Begu, she can hit through a sort of a damp, cold environment because she hits the ball kind of like Serena flat through the air. So we'll see how she adjusts to that. But it's going to be interesting to see it under the lights.
Very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the women's outright market. We saw the overwhelming favorite, last year's champion, Iga Swiatek, young Polish up-and-coming superstar whose numbers pop when you kind of break down how well she has played at Roland Garros in her young career. Her performance last year was the single strongest that I've seen on paper going back to like 1988 and Steffi Graf. Whether or not she can, I had doubts coming into the season if she could back that up. However, the rest of the women's field, and especially at the top, is kind of a who's who of players who are out of form. We know Halep has already pulled out of the tournament. Bianca Andreescu was eliminated this morning. So, really, it feels like everyone's kind of getting out of her way. Maybe you can make a case that, a player like Ash Barty could give her a run for her money, but she's got a very tough quarter. Her draw was not a treat. Do you agree with the market that Iga should be the overwhelming favorite here? And, I guess what are your thoughts on her potential future on tour?
Listen, if she wins the tournament, I won't be surprised. She's such a phenomenal player on clay. Her game, it absolutely is perfect for clay because she has that heavy forehand. She her second serve can get a little vulnerable sometimes, but you don't really get hurt as much on clay, and she moves so beautifully. Why is she the favorite? Well, she's defending champion, and she won her last tournament on clay in the final. 0-0. Okay. So, obviously she comes into this tournament unbelievably focused and incredibly, playing at her very best. To defend a title is really hard to do. It's really emotionally hard to do and very, very difficult. Maybe it helps her that it's not that long ago that she won it. It was obviously back at the latter part of 2020. But don't sleep on the favorite. For me, is Ash Barty. How can you not make her the favorite? She also is technically defending her title. She gave herself a year away. She has a perspective of such a difference when she stepped away from the game because she was not handling all of that pressure on her shoulders years and years ago. So her perspective in playing matches these days is so much different than it was before. She's the favorite because she beat Swiatek a couple of weeks ago. Everybody forgets about that. This is a player that can slice and dice, has a huge heavy forehand. She's the ace leader on the WTA Tour, and serving well in Paris really helps you. It pops off the court. The court plays quite fast for a clay court. And so for me, the favorite is Ash Barty. Now, why she wasn't given co-favoritism in the betting is beyond me. So I think if you're going to have a bet today, do it quickly. Put it on Ash Barty. Now, I'm not saying that she's 100% certainty to win the tournament. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of players in this draw. There's probably 10 players that I could legitimately say could win the tournament. Muguruza is a great little shot as well if she can get through a couple of rounds. She obviously hasn't played for a little bit because of injuries, but this is a multiple Grand Slam champion who mowed people down to win the French Open not that long ago. She has Conchita Martinez back coaching her, who she had on her bag, as we say, when she won Wimbledon. They work well together. So Muguruza might be a little side bet as well. But for me, Ash Barty at least has to be co-favorite, and Barty and Swiatek are in the same half of the draw. So one of them has to get there. And for me, if you put them against each other, if Swiatek doesn't change the way she played against Ash, and I'm not going to give away what she needs to do better because that would be coaching, but her game plan was horrific in the last match. So, maybe if they do their scouting a little better, maybe things will change in that matchup. But for me, Ash Barty's the favorite.
Well, loyal listeners to Bet the Edge already have Ash Barty at 9-1 in their pocket from several weeks ago when we were high on that price. So hopefully they don't need to go bet plus 450 because they already have a better number.
Drew, I was going to defend you and you said it first. Drew's been all over Ash Barty for weeks on this show. So now he'll be extra happy and confident in his play. But just to back it up even more, you said it, 2019 French Open champion. She is currently the #1 women's tennis player in the world. So at plus 450, still good value. But my guy Drew over there was with you a few weeks ago, Renee. So that's awesome. Listen, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day watching the French Open.
Me too. Put that money on Barty like you should have done on Helio Castroneves yesterday.
Yes. You can follow Renee on Twitter at Renee Stubbs. And of course, check out the Racket Magazine podcast. She's a co-host with Caitlin Thompson. I listened today. It's a phenomenal podcast. Awesome stuff for Renee. And now I know Drew is fired up for the rest of the day. What an Indy 500 race Sunday on NBC. Helio Castroneves took the checkered flag and was 33-1 to win at the Brickyard entering the race. For all of you looking for an edge in motorsports, you have to check out Dan Beaver's best plays on NBCSportsEdge.com. His top 3 bets, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Busch, finished first, second, and third at the Coca-Cola 600. Unbelievable. From tennis, talking, of course, a little bit about the Indian motorsports. Now we get to talk NBA. And who better to do that than our guy, Von Dalzell? He brings in all of the prop knowledge that he has leading into these 2 games. We talked a little bit about both sides in total, but if we're looking to get in a derivative market for tonight's games, Von, what's the first thing that you're kind of looking at, what you feel most confident play in tonight's games?
Yeah, well, happy Memorial Day. And looking at 2 NBA games, there's a lot of baseball on today, so I'm excited to watch tons of sports. But for the Grizzlies game, I know you guys hit on the over already. There's a lot of over potential for the player props as well. I mean, it's been tough kind of to judge on where to bet unders in the playoffs because some of these star players, can sit. There's blowout potential. But in this series overall, there's been pretty tight-knit games. So I feel comfortable backing the player prop market in this one, and 2 players in particular catch my eye. One I already bet, and that's Ja Morant over 25.5 points. Now, this guy has been on fire. They're down 2-1 at home. They need to win this game and stay alive because, once they go to Utah, they are going to be down and out more than likely. But he scored 26 or more in 5 of the 6 games he's played against them. The thing I noticed, he's shooting the ball a ton. 18-plus attempts in 5 of those 6, but in the playoffs particularly, 21-plus field goal attempts in all of them. On this season, when he attempts 20 field goal attempts, he's 12-3 to the over at 25.5 points. NBC's model has him about 25.6, but they don't account for the total minute play because he's more than likely going to play 40 minutes because he's going to need to. And at 37-plus minutes, he's 9 of 14 this year, 64% hit rate. One goes 70% or higher once it goes past 36. So I really like Ja Morant in this spot particular. I think it's going to be hard for Utah to slow him down. Him and Donovan Mitchell could go point for point in this one. And I both see these guys with 30-point burger potential. So I'll ride with Ja Morant because he's down 2-1, and I know he's going to shoot 20-plus times.
Yeah.
I dig it. God, it's going to be a great game. I'm excited for that one.
It really is.
The other game on the undercard, I guess, the closeout game here between Philly and Washington. Tough to really find a lot of betting value in that. We talked off the top. I'm going to wait until the last minute and probably fire away and just take the points on Washington. But do you see any other ways to attack the prop market in this closeout spot for the Philadelphia 76ers?
Yeah, I like your mindset in that one. And the beginning of the series, I was pretty high on wait till the Wizards get to 9 or 10-point underdogs and then take them there. In this spot, the Sixers always win at home, but they don't cover nearly as much as home as you think they would.
Mm-hmm.
But in this spot, I kind of got burned in the last meeting because I don't play too many unders, but this has been a straight grind in the NBA playoffs with prop bet market. A lot of unders, especially in this series, can pop up. So I'm on the Joel Embiid under 44.5 again. Now, I didn't get it the first time because he decided they were going to play him the most minutes out of any player because he set a career high. If he didn't set a career high with 36 points, this would be a win. I hate talking about outlier bets and talking about bets that we should have won, but that's definitely one that we should have won. Considering that Joel Embiid plays 30 or fewer minutes, he has only hit the over 4 out of 22 times on the entire season at 44.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And he only did that because of a career high. Up 3-0. I don't see the need for him to play 30-plus minutes in this game. I like the chances that he goes under that. And when he does that, like I said, the numbers are very strong. Rebounding and assist totals have not been good for Embiid in this series because he only scores. So either take the under 44.5 or the under 12.5 rebounds and assists. I think those are the best two looks on Joel Embiid. The model loves the under on Embiid's points tonight. But that scares me because, like I said, that's all he wants to do. So I'll take the under on the total, 44.5.
Vaughn, I love this look. To your point, if it does have blowout potential towards the end of the game, they're going to rest him, and rightfully so. And the edge model is all about it. 34.9 points, rebounds, assist, which is well in agreement with your play and off from the total at PointsBet. Okay, we're going to talk a little baseball here. Surprisingly, we haven't talked about baseball yet for my edge of the day. Of course, we will get back to some Major League action, but there's a specific prop that normally I love to play, Vaughn. I know you love it as well, and it's every time Jacob deGrom plays. We look at a strikeout prop, and we look at the first 5 total in the under, and there's always action for one of us on that side. And now we see the Mets tonight facing the Diamondbacks. Obviously, the Diamondbacks struggled this season. They strike out about average, right across average in Major League Baseball. So is it deGrom? Is it the total? What are you eyeing in this matchup?
It is deGrom. Now, I was expecting you to be on this one today, so I did tell the producers I'm ready for a different play just in case.
We're always on the same page when he's on the mound.
Exactly. How can you not be? In this spot, I mean, I like him because in his last start against Arizona, that's when he had that tightness and he had the injury there that he saw him exit after 5 innings. And he came back in the last game against Colorado, and he was on a leash. They said he wasn't going to be, but we all know it's Jacob deGrom, so we want him to be healthy. He had 63 pitches in 5 innings, struck out 9, and that was certainly impressive. Now he gets an Arizona team again. He has a lot of success against. Overall, I had to go and look back against the numbers because there's 12 hitters and pitchers that have faced him already. In those numbers, 227 at-bats, a 1.55 batting average against him, 73 strikeouts to 50 hits. The model has him right around that 9.5 number. I like him here. As you said, they kind of strike out around the average, but in the last 6 games, they have 57 Ks, nearly 10 a game. And in their last 7 and 15 days, they're one of the bottom 10 teams when it comes to strikeouts and against right-handed pitchers, 27% swing rate. So I'll take my chances on deGrom on a longer leash today. I could see 80-plus pitches from him, hopefully 100 if we hit this 10K that I like to see today.
I got to tell you, man, if they're pitching him that much, if they're asking that much of him, and he's already been dealing with a little bit of injury question marks this season, and they're, I don't want to wish anything poor on deGrom because he's so much fun to watch when he's on. But it is surprising considering how much they're using him, how, what he's dealing with injury wise, that he is this overwhelming favorite for NL Cy Young. A lot of season left, a lot of games left. I'm surprised he's minus 143 favorite right now. Do you think there's a way to attack the prop market, get a little insurance if you bet deGrom before the season and you want to protect your investment a little bit? Do you think there's anyone else out there that has a chance?
Yeah, I mean, certainly he looks like the best pitcher in the league. I mean, he's been dominant when, like you said, when he's on. I do see that there's a little bit of potential in this spot for him to go under, but I think that, like I said, he's going to come back. He's on fire when he's on the mound. He has that alpha dog mentality to him. But another guy I've seen this year that's really surprised me, I don't want to say he's come out of nowhere because last year he did very well, was Corbin Burns from Milwaukee. And I think that he has a lot of potential here to win Cy Young. Now, I grabbed him about a week and a half ago. Essentially when deGrom got hurt is when I grabbed Corbin Burns because I was like, okay, I see some value. Now, the market hasn't changed for him because his May has not been as great as his April was. He's actually let up more earned runs in his last 3 starts this month than his first 5 starts in April. So that could be a factor why. But when you look at who he's playing, obviously Detroit, I love to fade the Detroit Tigers. So he's on the mound against them today. I am on the over 9.5. But he gets starts against teams like Arizona and Pittsburgh, strikeout high teams. And then you factor in what he's done already. He's had 9 strikeouts or more in every single start up until his last one against San Diego. And that was his second start against the Padres this season. So I won't put too much stock into that one necessarily. I do think Corbin Burns has the best potential here. And you see Brandon Woodruff, his teammate, at the 3rd best odds. So rolling with the Brewers pitcher right now seems pretty good, especially if deGrom might miss a few more games this season. And I don't really see much of a market outside of those guys. And, unless you're going to take a shot on Scherzer or Bauer for the Dodgers. But I mean, I think this is a straight deGrom or Corbin Burns market.
I'm going to get into Trevor Bauer in just a sec for Edge of the Day. We'll touch on him in a bit. Vaughn, awesome stuff. Good luck with all your wagers, and I'm sure you'll be back on the show soon.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy Memorial Day.
We had John Morosi on last week fairly quickly, and something he's a voter for Cy Young voter, of course, and something he touched on, which I thought was fairly interesting, Drew, is he heavily weighs how many starts these guys get. And for a guy like even as great as he's been in DeGrom, it's very tough to back him right now because he's been a little injury prone this season. So minus 143, my recommendation to everyone watching this and listening, stay away at the minus 100s. I know he's the best pitcher, but if he's misses a few more starts, it's going to be very hard to justify that award.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing at all. Only 3 starts here. This is his 3rd start in the month of May. Only 5 starts in April. And some of these questions swirling about his ability to go the distance this year, I think, are going to hold him back from a voting standpoint.
It is Monday. We're trying to start the week off with some nice action, some value, an edge. And that leads me to you, Drew, your favorite play on the board on Memorial Day.
So first of all, our segment with Renee was spectacular. Love her insight. That was a very, very compelling cases she made for a lot of the looks she brought up. And she actually shaken my confidence a little bit here in my edge of the day. I took Serena 2-0. Basically Serena to win in straight sets in the first ever night match at Roland Garros. They finally at long last put lights up in this on the main court, and you'll have Serena under the lights in Paris. Big moment. And really, my confidence in Serena mostly comes from throwing out everything we've seen from her on clay up to this point in the season. She, to me, at least to me, she was waving the checkered flag at the Monte Carlo Grand Prix, and she's been touring through Europe doing a lot of promotional stuff for her. For her advertisers and sponsors and things like that. But now that this is, rubber meets the road, Grand Slam tennis, and she's going up against Begu, who has not taken a set off of a top 10 player in a Grand Slam in her career. She has not taken a set off of a top 20 player at Roland Garros. I think that it's going to be extremely tough to ask her to go head toe-to-toe with Serena, even though the conditions are going to be a little damp, a little bit slower. I think that actually takes a little bit of the firepower out of her serve, which is the one thing I would be concerned about in terms of Serena getting this done in straight sets. So hopefully Serena, shows us what I know she has in her, which is, championship tennis tonight. And she gets it done without a sweat here. But I do think, Renee's shaking my confidence a little bit.
Well, I'll defend, your play with Renee's insight as well. She did say she would not be surprised if she saw Serena come out and just roll.
Flip the switch. Let's go.
Yeah. So I like it. It's very hard to go against Serena Williams. So if you do like this play, just so you know, it's coming up in a few hours. It's probably a good time to look at those odds right now or when you're done watching. Of course, to end the show, I'll give my edge of the day. I'm looking at the Cardinals and the Dodgers. This opened at 6.5, quickly bet up to 7. Been split action a little bit back and forth here. Ultimately, I looked at the Dodgers. I was a little hesitant. They've been a little spotty over the past week or so. I'm going over here. I know it's Trevor Bauer and Jack Flaherty, 2 awesome starting pitchers, but the Dodgers, regardless, they're averaging over 5 runs a game, second best in baseball, best in the National League. Mookie Betts is probably coming back today. Had some allergy issues yesterday, so he didn't play. Justin Turner's playing great. Max Muncy been in the news every day. Cody Bellinger's back. I love this offense. They're going to be a tough out for whoever they're facing, including Jack Flaherty. And then I also look at just what these bullpens have done. They've been a bit taxed as of lately, which leads me to believe when both Trevor Bauer and Jack Flaherty come out, which I do think they normally give you a solid 6, it's going to open the gates a little bit. So that's why I think money quickly came in. I'm going over 7. I played it at 6.5. I would still play it at 7. If you look what Trevor Bauer also has done in his career against the Cardinals, just twice, an ERA over 5. So yes, he's a great pitcher. He's been able to be hit by this Cardinals offense. I like the over, whether 6.5 or 7, where you can get it. I love this play for tonight's late night baseball game.
I love it. It's potentially a little bit of a preview of our NLCS.
I think so. The Cardinals have been a little underrated. That was my favorite team to win their division, and rightfully so. The NL West is incredible, though. That's the best division in baseball. Okay. Thank you for joining us on Memorial Day. We got to a lot of stuff, and I just have to give Drew credit one more time for giving out Ash Barty 9-1 a few weeks ago, because I'm still happy about that. All right, Drew, thank you so much. And seriously, thank you to all of you joining us on this Monday and watching on our brand new NBC Sports Edge YouTube channel. Head on over to NBCSportsEdge.com. You'll have all the information you're going to need to continue helping you with your wagers throughout the day and through the night until you join us back at 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. For Drew Dinsick, I'm Sarah Perlman, everyone here with NBC Sports Edge. Thanks for watching, and we will see you mañana.